Level 1. The last ticket. It was an ordinary Monday morning. The alarm rang at exactly 6:00 a.m. He slowly opened his eyes, looked around his tiny apartment, and sighed. The rent was overdue. The electricity bill was sitting on the kitchen table. His refrigerator was almost empty. Only a bottle of water and half a loaf of bread remained. He checked his wallet. There were only $12 left. That was everything he had. No savings, no backup plan, no one to ask for help. He got dressed, picked up his backpack, and walked outside. The streets were already busy. People were rushing to work. Cars filled the roads. Everyone seemed to have somewhere to go, except him. He had spent months searching for a better job. Every interview ended the same way. "We'll call you," but nobody ever did. As he walked through the city, he noticed a small convenience store. Outside the door, a colorful sign caught his attention. $12,000 lottery jackpot. He smiled for a second, then laughed quietly. What are the chances? He looked at the $12 inside his wallet. That money could buy lunch, or pay for the bus, or it could buy one lottery ticket. For nearly a minute, he stood there thinking. His mind told him not to waste the money. His heart whispered, what if? Finally, he walked inside. He bought one ticket. The cashier smiled. Good luck. He folded the ticket carefully, placed it inside his wallet, and walked back outside. The rest of the day felt longer than ever. He couldn't stop thinking about that ticket. Later that evening, he returned home. He ate the last piece of bread, drank a glass of water, and sat quietly on the couch. The lottery numbers would be announced in just a few minutes. His hands felt cold. His heart beat faster. He opened the lottery website on his phone. The first number appeared. It matched. The second number appeared. It matched too. He sat up straight. The third matched. The fourth matched. Now he could barely breathe. His hands were shaking. His heart pounded so loudly, it felt like the whole room could hear it. There was only one number left. He slowly looked down at his ticket, then back at his phone. The final number appeared. For a few seconds, everything went silent. He stared at the screen, unable to believe what he was seeing. Every single number matched. He had just won $12,000. His eyes filled with tears. He smiled, then laughed, then cried again. Just this morning, he had only $12. Now, everything felt possible, but he didn't know. Winning the money was only the beginning, because every decision after this moment would change his life forever. Level 2. Everyone wants your money. Only one day had passed, but everything already felt different. The news spread faster than he expected. Somehow, people found out that he had won $12,000. His phone started ringing. Again, and again, and again. Old classmates he hadn't spoken to in years suddenly sent friendly messages. Neighbors who barely knew his name started smiling at him. Even distant relatives began calling him. Everyone had the same question. So, what are you going to do with the money? At first, he felt happy. It was nice to finally get attention, but that feeling didn't last long. The first request came from an old friend. Can you lend me $500? Then another message arrived. My car broke down. I just need $1,000. An uncle called. It's a family emergency. A cousin wanted help paying rent. Another friend wanted money to start a business. One by one, the requests never stopped. Every person had a different story. Every story sounded important. Every request sounded urgent. He sat alone, looking at his phone. He realized something. Winning money hadn't solved his problems. It had created new ones. He wanted to help everyone, but if he said yes to every request, the money would disappear. That night, he turned off his phone. For the first time since winning, The apartment was completely silent. He opened his notebook. On one page, he wrote one sentence. A small fortune can disappear with small decisions. He took a deep breath. Tomorrow, he would make his first real financial decision. Not based on emotions, but based on his future, because keeping money can be harder than winning it. Level 2. Everyone wants your money. Only one day had passed, but everything already felt different. The news spread faster than he expected. Somehow, people found out that he had won $12,000. His phone started ringing. Again, and again, and again. Old classmates he hadn't spoken to in years suddenly sent friendly messages. Neighbors who barely knew his name started smiling at him. Even distant relatives began calling him. Everyone had the same question. So, what are you going to do with the money? At first, he felt happy. It was nice to finally get attention, but that feeling didn't last long. The first request came from an old friend. Can you lend me $500? Then another message arrived. My car broke down. I just need $1,000. An uncle called. It's a family emergency. A cousin wanted help paying rent. Another friend wanted money to start a business. One by one, the requests never stopped. Every person had a different story. Every story sounded important. Every request sounded urgent. He sat alone, looking at his phone. He realized something. Winning money hadn't solved his problems. It had created new ones. He wanted to help everyone, but if he said yes to every request, the money would disappear. That night, he turned off his phone. For the first time since winning, the apartment was completely silent. He opened his notebook. On one page, he wrote one sentence. A small fortune can disappear with small decisions. He took a deep breath. Tomorrow, he would make his first real financial decision. Not based on emotions, but based on his future, because keeping money can be harder than winning it. Level 3, the investment trap. Level 3, the investment trap. A few days passed. Life finally became quiet again. Most of the phone calls had stopped. Most of the messages disappeared. He thought maybe things were getting better. Then, one afternoon, someone knocked on his apartment door. A man wearing an expensive suit stood outside. He smiled confidently. I heard you won the lottery. I have an opportunity for you. The man handed him a business card. It looked professional. Everything seemed real. We help people double their money. Your $12,000 could become $24,000 in only a few months. His heart started racing. $24,000. Without working harder, it sounded unbelievable. That evening, he searched the company online. Some reviews looked amazing. Others warned. It's a scam. He couldn't decide who to believe. The next day, the man called again. This opportunity won't last. You have to decide today. Pressure filled the room. He looked at his savings. He remembered how difficult it had been to survive. He also remembered how quickly easy promises can become expensive mistakes. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and asked himself, do I want fast money or a safe future? The answer would change everything. Level 4, building a better future. Days turned into weeks. For the first time in years, life felt stable. His rent was paid. His refrigerator was full. His phone finally stopped ringing every hour, but one question stayed in his mind. What comes next? He knew something important. The lottery money wouldn't last forever. If he kept spending it, one day it would be gone. So instead of chasing easy money, he decided to improve himself. Every morning, he woke up early. He read books about money. He watched free business classes online. He learned how successful people managed their finances. At first, everything felt confusing. New words, new ideas, new challenges, but he refused to quit. Every day, he learned something new. Weeks passed. His confidence slowly grew. Then one afternoon, he found a small online course that could teach him a valuable skill. It wasn't expensive, but it could open new opportunities. He paid for the course. Every evening after dinner, he studied for hours. Some nights he felt tired. Some lessons were difficult, but every completed lesson made him stronger. One day, he looked back at the person he used to be. The man who depended on luck was slowly becoming a man who depended on knowledge. He smiled because he finally understood something. Money can disappear, but skills stay with you forever. This wasn't the end of his journey. It was only the beginning. Level 5. The first business. Months passed. The lottery money was still there, not because he was lucky, but because he had learned how to make smart decisions. The online course changed the way he thought. Every lesson taught him one important truth. Money should work for you, not the other way around. One evening, he opened his notebook. On the first page, he wrote one question. What problem can I solve? He looked around his neighborhood. There was a small shopping area. Many stores were busy. Many people needed help. He noticed something. A small service business could be started with very little money. He spent several days researching. He compared prices. He calculated costs. He refused to rush. Finally, he made a decision. He used only a small part of his lottery money, not all of it, just enough to give himself a chance. The first week was difficult. No customers, no phone calls, no sales. Every evening, he wondered if he had made a mistake, but he remembered something. Success never arrives on the first day, so he kept going. He smiled at every customer. He worked harder than anyone else. He arrived early. He stayed late. Little by little, people started noticing. One customer became 2, 2 became 5, 5 became 10. But it was honest income. For the first time in his life, he earned money because of his skills, not because of luck. That feeling was worth more than the lottery ticket. He looked at his notebook again, then wrote another sentence. Luck opened the door, but hard work kept it open. He smiled, because he knew the biggest change wasn't in his wallet. It was inside himself, and bigger opportunities were already waiting. Level 6, the first success. 6 months had passed. The small business was no longer just an idea. It had become a real source of income. Every morning, customers were waiting before the doors opened. Every evening, he closed the shop with a grateful smile. For the first time in his life, he wasn't worried about paying next month's rent. The lottery money had almost served its purpose. Now, most of his income came from his own hard work. He smiled every time he remembered that. One afternoon, a customer walked into the shop. After looking around, the customer said, "Your service is excellent. You should open another location." The idea stayed in his mind. Could he really grow his business? That night, he opened his notebook. He calculated every expense, every risk, every possible outcome. He had learned something important. Never make decisions with excitement. Make them with knowledge. After several days of planning, he finally decided he would expand slowly, carefully, one step at a time. He rented a slightly larger place. He bought better equipment. He even hired his very first employee. Watching someone else wear his company shirt made him smile, because this business was no longer just helping him. It was creating opportunities for others too. Months later, business became even stronger. Customers kept returning, not because of luck, but because they trusted him. Standing outside his growing business, he looked at the sunrise. The lottery ticket had changed his life, but discipline had changed his future. He took a deep breath and smiled, because he knew this journey was far from over. Level 7, financial freedom. A year had passed. The small business that once had no customers was now growing every single month. People no longer came because of advertisements. They came because they trusted the business. His first employee was no longer working alone. He hired a second, then a third. Soon, a small team was working together every morning. The business opened on time. Every customer was welcomed with respect. Every problem was solved with honesty. He remembered the day when he had only $12. Now, he wasn't counting every dollar anymore. He was building something much bigger. One afternoon, his accountant smiled and said, "Your business has reached a new milestone." For a moment, he became silent. Not because of the money, but because he remembered where everything started. One lottery ticket, one smart decision, and thousands of small choices made every single day. That evening, he walked through his business. He watched his employees working hard. He smiled proudly because they weren't just helping him succeed. Together, they were building something meaningful. Before closing the business, he wrote one final sentence in his notebook. Freedom isn't having more money. Freedom is having more choices. He closed the notebook, looked toward the sunset, and realized luck had opened one small door, but discipline had built an entire future. He smiled because he knew the greatest reward was not the money, it was the person he had become.